This is
Module 2.
the body paragraph. Let's look back at the FSA rubric, specifically the evidence and elaboration portion. The evidence and elaboration portion should be supporting your claim with support and evidence that's thorough, convincing, and credible. So this is included, but not limited to, including precise references to sources, having transitions in between paragraphs, using elaborative techniques such as examples, quotations, anecdotes, any type of details that you can add to prove your point, and of course using appropriate academic language. So in this module, we're going to help you with the steps to writing an effective body paragraph, as well as looking at some examples and a good idea bank for coming up with the elaboration techniques that a lot of us still need a little bit of help with. If you think back to Module 1, when we were writing our introductions, we had 4 steps that were very effective in helping us start off our essays. The same goes for when writing your body paragraph. There should be 3 steps that you should look to when writing. You can remember those 3 steps with the acronym P. So as Miss Bird likes to say, you can P on your paper. So P, make a point about your claim. E, provide evidence from the text. And E, elaborate how this supports your claim. So point, evidence, elaboration. We're going to look at an example so you can see exactly what this means. Go ahead and follow along as I read it out loud. Even though some may argue additional information is not necessary, student data allows teachers to be aware of potential barriers and risks present in their classrooms. According to Kalia Barnes, data gathering includes health, fitness, and sleeping habits, sexual activity, prescription drug use, alcohol use, and disciplinary matters. These records have a beneficial impact in the classroom. For example, students who have allergies with severe symptoms need their teachers to be informed of their health issue and protocols that coincide. If a student was to have a deathly allergic reaction and the teacher was clueless to the situation, the outcome could be fatal. Obtaining student data allows teachers to prepare for the unexpected. So now let's think of our acronym P, Point, Evidence, Elaboration. So I'm going to go ahead and circle our point. Student data allows teachers to be aware of potential barriers and risks present in their classrooms. So this sentence could be considered as a main idea. We know that our writer is for schools collecting student data. So one of the arguments they're going to make is that student data has the potential of giving new information to teachers that is going to help them in their classrooms. Everything that follows in this paragraph should be supporting this main idea. Let's move on to the next part of our acronym, E, evidence. Evidence includes paraphrases and direct quotes that come from the academic resources given to you. In this example, we're given a quote from Kalia Barnes, which I just underlined, as evidence that backs up how teachers can be aware of potential barriers and risks. So data includes health, fitness, sleeping habits, sexual activity, prescription drug use, alcohol use, and disciplinary matters. These are all things that teachers could use to prevent potential barriers and risks. Once we have our point and the evidence that relates to it, we have to do the final step, which is elaboration. It's not enough to just drop a quote from an academic source that you've been given. You have to make some type of valid, original argument. For instance, this example that we're looking at starts talking about students who might have an allergy. They give an example that if teachers don't know certain health issues that a student might have, the outcome could be fatal. So their elaboration is using an example and pointing out a potential risk. It all relates back to the main idea as well as the quote given by Kalia Barnes. This is a great example of a body paragraph that would score a 3 or 4 on the FSA. Let's do another example together. You're going to go ahead and follow along on your worksheet that your teacher provided. As I read, I want you to mark where you see point, evidence, and elaboration. Monitoring students constantly can have a negative effect on their education and learning. In the article, Student Data Collection is Out of Control, Kalia Barnes writes, when schools record and analyze students' every move and recorded thought, they chill expression and speech, stifling innovation and creativity. When being constantly surveyed, students can become less inclined to try something out of fear of having their failures analyzed. Schools should be providing a reassuring atmosphere that allows students to grow from their failures. Students who are identified as low-level students or failures are likely to have low self-esteem, which in return can lead to acting out and further refusal to learn. Go ahead and take a few more seconds to underline, circle, and square off where you see point, evidence, and elaboration. Okay, so you should have circled the first sentence as your point. Underline the quote from Kalia Barnes as your evidence. And then squared off your elaboration talking about students who might have low self-esteem due to constantly being reminded of failures or other low-level scores. You can see that these body paragraphs are just loaded with quotes or aren't off topic. When you follow the formula of PEE, it keeps you on track with your thoughts and allows you to write a really effective body paragraph. Now that we've addressed how you should tackle the body paragraph, we want to go over some of the feedback that we've gotten. Many students are having a hard time with the elaboration piece. The majority of our students have succeeded in coming up with a main idea and finding relating evidence that supports it. But we're getting stuck on expanding on these thoughts and coming up with an original argument to support our claim. We're going to go ahead and refer to Maslow's hierarchy to help us with this section of the module. Let's go ahead and review Maslow's hierarchy. As I explain on our module, you can go ahead and take notes on your worksheet. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a 5-stage model which lists the steps a person needs to reach their highest potential. It starts at the bottom of the pyramid with basic needs and leads its way up to self-actualization, which includes morality, creativity, spontaneity, things that are needed to become the best version of yourself. If you're lacking in the lower levels of the pyramid, you cannot move to the top of the pyramid to those areas of self-esteem and self-actualization. Looking at these 5 areas more in depth, at the very bottom we have our physiological needs, also known as your basic needs. So water, air, sleep, a place to live, shelter, all of those things that are 100% necessary to physically survive on the earth. Once these things are provided, you move up to the second level, which is safety. Feeling safe in your atmosphere, having security in finances, employment, health safety, having access to doctors or prescription medicines that are needed. Also, this includes feeling safe in your communities and the people you associate with. Once you have your basic needs and safety, you move up to the third area, which is love and belonging. This includes friendship, family, and intimate relationships. Before we move on, let's discuss the importance of needs from the bottom of the pyramid. If we have a person who is lacking food, shelter, sleep, they most likely aren't going to feel secure in themselves, their atmosphere, the things that are being provided to them. They most likely feel like they have an unstable life. A person who feels like they're unstable most likely aren't going to be the first to enter into a trusting relationship with a friend, family member, etc. So you can see how the bottom of the pyramid affects the top. Moving on from the belonging area of the pyramid, we go up to self-esteem. Self-esteem includes respecting yourself and respecting others. Feeling confident enough in yourself that you don't judge others and you are not so harsh on yourself that it's destructive. Self-esteem also includes being proud of your accomplishments and wanting to achieve more. Once a person feels as if they have high self-esteem, you move up to the very top of our pyramid, which is self-actualization. Self-actualization can also be known as becoming the best version of yourself. So this can include taking new risks, exploring creativity, exploring religious endeavors, finding your moral compass, finding ways to solve problems in your life or others, having lack of prejudice, not judging others because you're so confident and fulfilled with your own life that it doesn't matter. Those who have reached the self-actualization stage accept the world as it is and do what they can to make it a better place. So you might be wondering right now, how does this exactly relate to the body paragraph and elaborating when it comes to your essay? Well, this pyramid serves as the perfect idea bank for elaboration. It doesn't matter what topic you have, you can find some way to relate it to the different areas of the pyramid. So for example, with the student data prompt, the first example you looked at talked about teachers having access to information that prevents barriers or risks in the classroom. So thinking about that, potential barriers and risks that a teacher might face with their students. I'm going to go ahead and look down to the bottom of the pyramid, physiological and safety. So what physical and basic needs might a teacher need to be aware of when it comes to teaching in the classroom? And if you recall, the student example that we read thought about how a student might have an allergy. And if they have a deathly allergic reaction, the teacher is going to need to be aware of that to come up with the protocol, the correct safety procedures to help that student and prevent them from having a death in the classroom. While this might seem like an extreme example, it certainly does show reasons why student data would be useful in the classroom. And it was pulled from the pyramid, an idea that was sparked from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The second example we looked at was against collecting student data in schools. And that example looked at students who might have a low self-esteem due to having data and past failures or mistakes brought up in their classroom. This student pulled from the top of the pyramid, connecting to the idea of esteem and someone who wouldn't have a high self-esteem if their pasts were constantly being pulled up and repeated and hindering them from moving forward and having a high self-esteem. So let's go ahead now and try to use Maslow's hierarchy of needs with a different prompt and see some ideas that you might be able to create an elaboration response with. So the prompt that we looked at in Module 1 was about whether or not people on Earth should be colonizing the planet Mars. So I want you to take a minute and think of some different ways that this topic could relate to the different areas of the pyramid, whether you're for it or not. Okay, so hopefully you got some good ideas down on paper. I'm going to go over some of the ideas I came up with just in case you're feeling a little stuck. So at the bottom of the pyramid, we have physiological basic needs. Let's say I am for colonizing Mars. I could argue that we already are aware of what resources we have on Mars. It's been researched. We know that we have access to food, to water, that we could successfully live there and have our basic needs met. No one who goes to Mars will not have shelter, will be lacking food, water. If anything, they might find more resources to improve the basic needs that we need to live. Moving on up the pyramid, safety, I thought of an example that is the opposite. So someone who is not all for colonizing Mars might discuss how unsafe traveling to Mars is. Thinking about all of the rocket ships and space shuttles that have gone wrong, where people have lost their lives in attempts to explore the unknown. You could also think about the potential health risks that we would be exposing our people from Earth to. Furthermore, that brings up an ethical issue of whether or not letting people go to Mars is really in their best interest and thinking of their safety. I want to jump up to the very top of our pyramid, self-actualization. Anyone who goes on this adventure to Mars has to be at this top of our pyramid. They have to have a lack of fear. They have to be knowledgeable. They have to know what they're capable of. They have to really fully trust themselves. Allowing people to go on this adventure to Mars might help them fully reach that best version of themselves, the idea of self-actualization. Again, you can see how Maslow's hierarchy of needs can help you develop your elaboration aspect of the body paragraph. Whether you're pro stance or con stance in your claim, you can utilize the pyramid to fully extend your body paragraph and make it as effective as possible. All right, are you ready to try it on your own? For this final exercise, we'll be using the bicycling prompt that we've been using throughout the modules. What is your claim? Should bicyclists be banned from the streets of Chicago? Or do you feel that cars and bicycles should have the same rights? Whichever way you choose to go, we're going to practice writing the body paragraph. What point are you going to make to support your claim? This should be a main idea and specific to your argument. Then you're going to refer back to your articles and pull out a piece of evidence that supports the main idea of the paragraph. Once you've done this with the main idea in mind, think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Which area of the pyramid can you rely on to develop the rest of your paragraph? Elaborate on that aspect of the pyramid and how it relates to your topic. If you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand and your teacher can help you. In the meantime, go ahead and get started on writing one of your body paragraphs.